People at Work. The Builder. First published in 1965. A Ladybird book. You have often seen men building new houses. The men are craftsmen who work for the builder. Sometimes they are building one house, and sometimes they are building lots of houses at the same time. This is called a housing estate. Houses are more than just bricks and mortar. Before any bricks are laid, a lot of thinking and planning has to be done. The plot of the land has to be chosen and bought, and it is decided what kind of houses are to be built. Quite a lot of people all work together to make the kind of houses that we live in today. When someone wants a house built, the first person he goes to see is an architect. An architect has surveyors working with him. A surveyor measures the plot of land or site and makes a plan of it. An architect draws pictures of what the house will look like when it is built. He draws plans to show the size of the house, the shape of the rooms, and where all the fittings must go in the house. Quantity surveyors work out what will be needed to build a house and how much it will all cost. The plan of the house is drawn onto the plan of the site, ready for the builder. Copies of the plan are made and are given to the builder. He gives a copy to the men in charge of the different work that will have to be done. The builder then marks out the shape of the house on the site. He does this with wooden pegs and tape. Everything is now ready for the workmen to start. They dig away the topsoil and cut trenches about 2 or 3 feet deep along the tapes. The workmen mix cement, sand, pebbles and water in a cement mixer to make concrete. They use the concrete to fill in the bottoms of the trenches. This is called laying the foundations. The walls of the house will be built on the concrete foundations. The spaces between the foundation walls are filled with concrete, and this is sometimes used as a base for the floor of the building. Most of our houses are made of bricks. The bricks keep the warmth in and the weather out and hold up the roof. A long time ago, all bricks were made by hand from mud or clay. A few are still made this way. But most bricks are now made by machines at large brickworks. The brick earth is dug from the ground and is taken to the brickworks. There it is crushed and ground to make it ready for shaping and cutting into the right size for bricks. The clay bricks are left to dry before they are baked. And when they are ready, thousands of clay bricks are put into a brick kiln. A kiln is a kind of oven that gets very hot. The baked or fired bricks are left to cool. Then they are taken on lorries to building sites. Builders can often tell where bricks have been made by their colour. Different earth makes different coloured bricks. When the bricks arrive at the building site, they are stacked near the foundations. The man who builds walls is called a bricklayer. He can lay as many as 1,000 bricks a day. The bricks are stuck together with mortar. To make the walls stronger, the bricks must overlap each other. This is called bonding. When the walls are just above the ground layer of waterproof felt, a slate is laid. This is called a damp-proof course and stops damp in the ground passing to the rest of the house. As the bricklayer works, he often looks at the plans. Then he will know where to build in the doors, windows and ventilators. A carpenter now begins to work. He is the man who does the rough woodwork of the house. When the walls are at the level of the first floor, he puts in the wooden floor joists. These are strong wooden beams which will carry the upstairs floors and hold up the ceilings in the downstairs rooms. Then the joiner fixes the window ledges, and when the walls are plastered, He fixes the doors, skirting boards and other woodwork. A few years ago, nearly all the woodwork in the house was done by carpenters and joiners on the building site. This took quite a lot of time. Today, most of the woodwork is made at joinery works. At a joinery works, machines plane the wood smooth and cut it to the right size. Machines also make the joints ready for the men to fit the pieces together. Doors, window frames and even the stairs all come to the building sites on lorries. They are ready to be fixed in the houses. When the walls of the house are too high for the bricklayer to reach, the first scaffold is made. A scaffold is a platform of planks for the workmen to stand on. This is held up by a frame of steel tubes. Extra scaffolds are put up as the workmen need them. As soon as the men get onto the scaffold, all the things they need have to be lifted up to them. Men used to carry bricks and mortar up ladders. Now there are many different ways of getting these things up the scaffold. Some builders used hoists, which are ropes passing over a high pulley wheel. Buckets and barrows are pulled by the men or by a little machine. Other builders use elevators. They're like a moving staircases. A man at the bottom puts the materials on, and a man on the scaffold platform takes them off. On tall buildings or on a large estate, the builder may use a lift which can be moved to different places. All these things help the workmen to build houses more quickly. A lot of strong timber which we cannot see is used to make a roof. The highest beam is called the ridge. The sloping beams are called rafters. The rafters are covered with waterproof felt and the tiling lathes are nailed on. The tiler starts work at the bottom of the slope and works his way upwards. He fixes the tiles on the tiling lathes so that they overlap each other. Most tiles are made of concrete or fired clay. When the roof is on, many different workmen can come and finish off the house. Plumbers work on all the water pipes of the house. They lay pipes to carry clean water into the house and the main water main. Plumbers also lay pipes to carry wastewater away to the sewers. They fix up the guttering and drain pipes. These collect the rainwater that drains from the roof and takes it to the drains. Glaziers put glass in the window frames to keep out the wind and the rain. Glass is made by mixing sand, soda and lime together. This mixture is made very hot in a furnace until it melts. The molten glass is pressed between rollers. When it is cool, the glass is cut into large sheets by machines. Big rubber suckers are fixed to the sheets of glass so that the cranes can pick them up. The glass is cut into smaller pieces and carefully packed to be sent to the building site. Most of the glass comes in pieces that are the right size for the window frames. The electricians have a special plan which shows them where to put all the lights and plug sockets. They fasten the wires to the bare walls and wooden joists. All these wires will be covered with plaster or wood by other workmen. When all the wires and pipes are in place, the house is ready for the plasterers. They are the men who make the ceilings and walls nice and smooth. The joiners can now finish all the woodwork in the house and leave it ready for the painters and decorators. In many towns, buildings of all kinds have to be pulled down before new ones can be built. This work is called demolition. Some of the buildings have to be taken down bit by bit so that other buildings nearby are not damaged. Other buildings are knocked down by using cranes. Sometimes these cranes have a heavy ball on a wire and the ball is swung against the walls. Mechanical shovels load lorries with the old bricks, and these are used in foundations for other building work. There is not much spare land in many towns today. Buildings are often built upwards so that they do not take up too much ground space. Usually these buildings are blocks of shops, offices or flats. People who build these want to make them very high. The local council tell the builders how high they will allow the buildings to be. Many large buildings have one floor or even two floors below ground level. These are called basements and are sometimes used as storerooms or car parks. A very large hole has to be dug out of the ground to make the basement. Mechanical shovels and grabbing cranes are used to dig out the earth. These machines bite several tons of earth out at a time. This is dumped into tip lorries and taken away. When the hole is big enough, the foundations of the building are put in. These are concrete piles which are driven deep into the ground. These concrete piles will carry the weight of the building. Some large buildings have frames of steel girders. The steel frame are covered with bricks, concrete, glass, aluminium or other material. The girders are made at steelworks. They come to the building site cut to the right lengths for the building. All the girders are marked to show where they fit onto each other. The girders have to be lifted by very tall cranes. The cranes have long arms or jibs, and the crane driver can place the loads where the men need them. The men who fit the girders together are called steel erectors. These men walk along the narrow girders, even when the framework is very high. When the steel frames have been built, the spaces between are filled in. This is called cladding. After the cladding is finished, workmen move into the building to complete the inside. At first, each floor is just one large room. Sometimes they are left like this for large shops, factories or multi-storey car parks. Smaller rooms can be made by erecting dividing walls. Today, many buildings are made with concrete frames. Each part of the frame is made by pouring concrete into a mould. The mould is shaped like a beam and has steel rods inside it to make the beam strong. This kind of concrete is called reinforced concrete. The floors for some of these buildings come in ready-made pieces. They're made of pre-stressed concrete. This means that the concretes have been pressed into moulds which have tightly stretched wires inside. Buildings made of reinforced concrete and pre-stressed concrete are clad and finished off like steel frame buildings. Sometimes the weather stops the builders from working. Builders do not like the frost because it freezes the water in the mortar and stops it from setting. Some builders put up steel frames and cover them with big sheets of polythene. These make big polythene sheds and the men work inside them. They have fires which keep the air warm and keep out the frost. On some buildings the work goes on night and day. Floodlights are used at night so the men can see to work. A new way of putting up buildings is by use of prefabrication. This is quicker than most other ways of building. When buildings are prefabricated, they are made in factories. Different parts of the building and even whole flats are made to the standard size or unit. The architect and the builder can make buildings of different shapes and sizes by adding more prefabricated units. Many new schools have been built by prefabrication. Perhaps you've seen one. Perhaps your own school was prefabricated. The outside wall of a prefabricated building are covered with various building materials. This makes sure that they do not all look alike when they're finished. At the factories, everything needed is fitted to each section of the building to be erected. Even the electric wires and water pipes are ready to be used when they've been connected to the mains. The finished sections are taken to the building sites on large lorries. The sections are lifted into place by tall cranes. In a few years' time, most of our homes and many other buildings will be prefabricated.